Hello and happy Friday. I'm Anson Hanbury, and this weekend I'm excited to launch into a new series at Lake Norman Baptist called A Time to Build. If you've been around our church any length of time, you know that we've been moving toward this opportunity to invest in our campus through a major construction project, the first one in over 20 years. And we're days away from filing for permitting. We're anticipating breaking ground in October on this gathering place for a growing community, investing in our campus so that it might help fuel the mission and vision to bring healing, connection, and purpose to people all around Lake Norman through the love of Jesus. And so this is going to be a unique year. It's a year of building, quite literally. It's going to be about an 8 to 10 month construction project, and it's going to impact all of us in a lot of different ways. But it's not just a season of building physically. This is also a season of building spiritually into all of us that call Lake Norman Baptist our church home. And so we're going to be focusing actually throughout the year on different ways that we can be built up as a church, strengthened for the mission and vision that God has called us to. My hope and prayer is that all of us would experience a healing in many ways this year. We all need healing in so many different capacities, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, but always spiritual. We need to grow in our relationship with God, and finding meaningful healing in our lives is a huge part of that. And then connection, connecting with one another, connecting with God, strengthening the love and church family dynamic that we enjoy as a church. We want to grow as a church and be built up and strengthened. And then also strengthened and built up in our purpose, the calling that God has for us. So toward that end, we're kicking off a new series. We're going to spend the next several weeks in the Old Testament book of Nehemiah. And you might know the book of Nehemiah as a book about building, which kind of makes sense to go to a book like this in a season like ours. Nehemiah was called by God to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem during a time that it had been destroyed. There was an exile that the Babylonians came, destroyed Jerusalem, carried off all of the Israelites into captivity, most of the Israelites into captivity. And then after that exile, that period of 70 years, there were different waves of Israelites who were allowed to then come back by the hand of God, by the grace of God. They were allowed to return to Jerusalem. And so actually the Old Testament books of Ezra and Nehemiah form one story of these three waves of returners from exile to Jerusalem and how they rebuilt really the ways and practices of the people of God to restore the law of God, the temple of God, the city of God. And so Israel became a practicing people once again. And so there's a lot to it, and we're gonna begin to tell that story this Sunday at Lake Norman Baptist. I hope you'll join us. But it's a story of going back in order to go forward. One of my favorite authors, pastors, I reference him a lot, Pete Scazzaro, in his book Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. He has a chapter called Going Back in Order to Go Forward. And it's all about understanding and learning from our past, both the highs and the lows, the wins and the losses, the things from our past that have helped us get to where we are, and the things from our past that hold us back from being who God has called us to be. And there's a biblical principle there. He points to the Old Testament where it talks about the consequences of one generation being passed on to another. And this season in the life of Israel, as they came back from exile, they were dealing with the consequences of the previous generations. And so we're going to see how they did that and what that meant for their calling going forward, and what that might mean for you and me individually and as a church as we lean into this season. It's a time to build, not just physically, but to build into the calling that God has for us. So good time to be at the church. Super excited about what's going on. A great time to invite somebody to join you to see what our church is all about and what's coming around the corner and what God has called us to. So excited about that. Also, remember, this is the last month of our ministry year and fiscal year. So the month of August, hugely important for our mission and vision, for our funding. We rely on giving in the month of August to be about twice what a normal month is. So we're a little under $300,000 away from reaching our $2 million goal for this year. And we just encourage you, if you have the opportunity and the capacity to give a special gift this month, or to begin a practice of giving, which is something that we're called to as stewards of the resources God has given us. If you're in that spot and you could give a special gift this month, would encourage you to do so. Help us finish strong and launch into our next ministry year on really solid footing with the mission and vision God has called us to. So lots going on. Excited you're a part of it. Hope to see you this Sunday as we move into this new series. But until then, have a great weekend.